From the Clark Ford Studio in Oxford, Mississippi, MBW Digital proudly presents the Oxford Exxon Podcast.
I'd say thanks for tuning in, but why am I going to give you a round of applause for something that you're supposed to do, to be frank?
And now, here are your hosts, Chase Parham.
And broadcast school has really paid off.
And Neal McCready.
I deserve to be on TV.
This Friday edition of the Oxford Exxon Podcast. I am Chase Parham. I am in the Clark Ford studio this morning, as we've been doing every single Friday here on the show this, semester, if you will, since early August. We're giving you the recorded version of our Thursday night live show that's been going on at Funky's on the Oxford Square. So another addition to that today. We had Mike Espy last night. Mike, the former Ole Miss wide receiver, now helping high school kids reach peak performance from an athletic standpoint, doing some mentoring as well, doing great things in the Jackson community. He was in Oxford yesterday for a fundraiser for his father, Mike Espy, who's running for United States Senate right now. So Mike, kind enough to join us for a while at Funky's. We talked to him about a number of topics. He was fantastic, and then we also go through Neal's picks for the week. I had a big week last week, 7-1 in Neal's picks, got a 1-game lead on Jeffrey, a 2-game lead on Neal after week 1. So we talk about the games coming up this weekend. We tell a story from 2012 as there was a football game on the TV above our heads during the show last night. So good show coming up for you today on the Oxford Exxon Podcast. And with the Oxford Exxon, follow them on Twitter because today's Free Gas Friday. Everybody coming in for games this weekend. They're going to give away 3 free tanks of gas. So just follow them on Twitter at Oxford Exxon. Retweet them. Be clever. Be funny. Interact. And you have a chance to win there. You can also get the Speed Pass Plus app. So we tell you about every single day because that saves you money. You pay right there at the pump. It's efficient. It's easy and saves you money with Blue Sky and the Oxford Exxon. Actually, all Blue Sky locations in Mississippi. As I mentioned, I'm in the Clark Ford studio. Clark Ford, Amory, Mississippi, Highway 25 South, 662-257-1900 is the phone number. You know it by now. You call Corey. He gives you a quote within 15 minutes during business hours. No haggling. Take the quote. Don't take the quote. Either way, it will be there for you when you do decide you're ready to get that car. Tell them about the podcast at the very end of the deal. They'll knock $500 off that vehicle from Clark Ford and Amory for mentioned in the podcast. We've had a lot of podcasts this week. A beer garden with Mike Detillier, a soft verbal with former Ole Miss wide receiver Shay Hodge. A lot of content up at the site as well. There's a Greatest Pod in the South with Neal and Jay up this morning. So tons at rebelgrove.com, including some advanced analytics stuff. We were really, really pleased to announce a Rivals.com partnership yesterday with Pro Football Focus. They're going to give us access to a lot of different information. We showed grades and snap counts yesterday for Ole Miss offensively and defensively from the Texas Tech game. You're going to get much more of that coming up in the future days and weeks, thanks to the partnership with Pro Football Focus. But now, as we go to our conversation with Mike Espy last night, it's myself, Neal McCready, and Mike Espy from Funky's on the Oxford Square. This is the Friday Oxford Exxon Podcast. Have a listen.
Mississippi, so I said, let me get in this car and come to God's country.
Do you have a future in politics?
I was actually asked that question last night. I think one day, yes. Right now, no. I have a lot of things that I'm trying to do, a lot of passions that I'm trying to fulfill. But ultimately, one day, I think I'd like to do that.
I want to get into your story a little bit. We're going to go through with you again. Don't have a ton of time, but I am kind of curious. You were working right now with Jonathan Mingo down there. You had a lot of experience with Tylen Knight when he was at Pearl prior to get to Ole Miss, and I'm sure you probably knew a little bit of this. Tylen, a hot button topic for the Ole Miss message boards last year with his size and everything else. What did you see, though, and did you think the entire time, hey, this is an SEC athlete, or kind of how did he come around to get there? Absolutely.
Tylen Knight is one of those special players, not just for his athletic ability, but what he brings to the team. He has those intangibles that you cannot coach, and he's a leader. He's going to do the right thing. You don't have to babysit him, to look out for him, and he's going to be a voice in the locker room, and that's where you want your program going. But not only that, on the field, he's special. He won Player of the Year for Pearl. He won MVP for the state championship. Then he went to the Mississippi-Alabama game and got MVP for Mississippi for the game. So he's really special. You can put him on offense, defense, a little small for defense. He's like that at running back position. He's that small scat back. He can really take one long for you.
What made you want to kind of get into that and work with the high school kids and even maybe a little bit younger than that?
Well, obviously, I played football, and there were some things that just were lacking in the community as far as what the services that these athletes could get. When I was coming up, my dad took me to Boca Raton, Florida, to a place called Fast Camp. And literally when I went and I came back, I was a different player. More so from the standpoint of the exposure and what I saw and who I was working with and things like that. And I came back and was just different. I think what we ultimately want to do as coaches, as trainers, give back to kids what we didn't have growing up. And I think, and I was, even while I was playing, I was kind of doing some coaching on the side, nothing official at all, but I would have people, hit me up and ask me for advice or whatnot. So now I'm gonna make a profession out of it.
So take me through your recruitment a little bit. I mean, there was barely maybe no Rivals.com at all. There was obviously no Twitter, no social media.
I'm not that old, man. I'm not that old.
When did it get started? What was your decision? Just sort of tell me, give me some anecdotes about that.
Man, so recruiting was crazy. Out of my high school, there were 6 of us that played D1 ball. We had Paris Harrelson, who went on to the University of Tennessee, Steven Gostowski, who's now playing for the Patriots. We had a running back named Bobo Brown, who was, in my opinion, the best high school running back that I've ever seen. You had Chris Spencer, and you had myself. So, we were called, Chris Spencer, Bobo, and myself, we were called the Big Three. And we would take all our recruiting visits together. And it was like, if you're going to get one of them, you're going to get all 3 of them. We were a pretty close-knit group, but it was crazy, man. Phone calls after phone calls, coaches showing up, looking in my classes. I'm a couple of them that were really annoying. Right? I'm not going to name them, but
it's been 18 years. Come on.
Well, Notre Dame. There was a guy from Notre Dame, and literally, I look up and he's standing out of my class. I'm like, don't you have a home and a family? But it's things like that. But at the end of the day, I look back. It was an awesome experience. With Chris Spencer and myself, we narrowed it down to Florida State, Tennessee, and Ole Miss, and we went to the University of Tennessee, and we liked it. It was really good experience. But then we came up here to Oxford, and of course they sold me on Eli. Well, it's not really you don't have to really sell Eli Manning. And then I went and looked at Casey Clausen was a quarterback at Tennessee. And I looked and compared and contrasted, and I was like,
it was a good call.
I was like, hotty toddy all day.
Yeah. How many? I know we're gonna jump around. Not picking on Jonathan Nichols here, but you were a kick or 2 away from probably winning the SEC. How many times did you think in those minutes, I played with a guy in high school that probably would have made that kick?
I actually don't know if I really went that far into the thought process, but Steven Gostowski he was the second best kicker on my team in high school.
Who was the best?
There was a guy, now I forget his name, but we had another kicker. He was more accurate. Steven Gostowski, we call Beaver, he'd line up on the 50-yard line and just bang it out. He had the leg for it. But yeah, he amazing talent. So, I love Jonathan Nichols, right? I love Steven Gostowski. I'm just not going to comment on that. Yeah. So,
if I had told you back then that almost 2 decades later, Steven Gostowski would still be in the NFL, would you have?
100% yes. He's not only is he a really good kicker, he's an athlete, right? So you could probably line him up at wide receiver, and he'll go out there and run some good routes and catch the ball for you. I don't know how well he could throw the ball, but I'm pretty sure you put him behind quarterback and he could do some good things too. But it's just an amazing talent. Obviously, in the NFL, the wear and tear of the kicker, it's not strenuous. It's not as tough, but it's just that commitment to excellence and his ability to remain good and remain accurate and remain dependable. I couldn't foresee a career like that, but I'm not surprised at all.
Neal jumped right in, real subtle with the LSU 03 thing with the question here. But
that's
let's
my middle
talk
name
about,
is subtle.
I am curious though about that season a little bit because I don't know that I've talked to anybody at length that was on that team kind of about those things. I think you're 2-2. You lose to Memphis, you lose to Texas Tech before you run off that thing. I mean, when you were walking off the field, I guess after that Texas Tech game, are you thinking there's a run in us, or are you thinking, hey, this is probably this is Eli's last year? We're potentially wasting this thing.
So when we lost to Texas Tech, man, that was tough. We lost 49-47, and I had 6 catches for 157 yards and a touchdown. Okay. But
you kicked 7 field goals. You couldn't take one of those into the house, though? Come on.
But we knew we were good. Even when we lost to Memphis, it was like. It was one of those things. We played to Memphis. Memphis did some good things, but we had a tremendous quarterback. We had a tremendous offensive line. Our running backs were good enough, and then we had a group of receivers: Chris Collins, Mario Hill, myself, Bill Flowers. We had Jason Armstead. We had a group of receivers that were talented. And defense could get some people off the field. And obviously, we had up-and-coming people like Patrick Willis, Kelvin Robinson. So we knew we were good. That was a tough loss. I couldn't look back and say, we knew we were going to run it off like that. But at the same time, we knew with Coach Cutcliffe and what we were doing and with Eli at the quarterback position, if we just prepared, played hard, practiced hard, we could do some good things.
Does the Auburn game in, and is that when it almost feels like it's fade? Obamano drops the ball, and you got the last minute drive and stuff. Because at that point, you guys really weren't tested a whole lot. I mean, you beat Alabama pretty bad. You outlasted Arkansas without a lot of effort there. So really, I mean, the Auburn game had to be where we went, hey, there's something here.
So yeah, in seasons like that, teams like that, it's going to take a bit of. Obviously, it's your hard work and your commitment, but it's also going to take a little bit of luck to a degree, and somebody on the other side has to do something not right. So, we after that game, and Obamanu?
Ben Obamanu
dropped the ball like that. We were like, let's go. Like, let's get this thing. And then, to lose like that to LSU, that was really tough.
Where were you at when Obamanu dropped the ball?
I was on the sideline.
I mean, you have a good view? I mean,
I was on the sideline, and I couldn't believe it. Like, there was another play in the game where somebody did something similar to that on Auburn, either dropped the ball or something. But, very thankful, very thankful.
What do you remember about that LSU game? It's obviously one of the games that people talk about all these years later. It was so many NFL players on that field, and that game was so dramatic and all of that stuff. What sticks out in your mind about it?
I was standing in the end zone on the last play of the game wide open with my arms open, right? I mean, that wasn't the play that was pivotal to make or break it, but, it was just, as a player, you have moments that you remember that like encapsulate the game for you. So I remember that moment. I remember Eli dropping back and Doug Buckles took a step back, stepped on his foot, and Eli, he fell down and we had a loss. So, and I remember the missed field goals, right? But not one of those things determined the win or the loss. The field goal situations happened, but at the same time, there were other things that we could have done throughout that game to put ourselves in a better position to win.
I've always been kind of curious, as a guy that played with him in college, when Eli Manning wins 2 Super Bowls, he's 2 Super Bowl MVPs. I know you were happy for your friend and your teammate and all that. Was there any part of you that thought, we came so close to doing that in college, we should have done that in college? Was there any part of that was bittersweet?
No, not bittersweet. When Eli, won a Super Bowl, like, it's your brother wins, right? And you're happy for him. And I don't think at that moment there's really not reflection in terms of what you could have, should have done in college. I think everybody on that team has thought about it. We understand, how talented we were. We understand what we could have done, but at the end of the day, we did not. So as an athlete, you don't really harp back on things too much. You just want to keep moving, progress, and get better at whatever you're doing.
Michael Spurlock had quite the NFL career as a kick returner. Did you guys see that at all in college? I mean, do you almost look like, hey, we could have had another wad out there, catching balls from Eli?
So I do a radio show in Jackson every Wednesday night from 6 to 8, and I had Mike call in last night.
Uh-huh.
And so when I'm lined back up at punt return, Spurlock was one of the guys that give me my yardage where I should line up, but he would always say that I was crazy for loving punt return. And then here, this man is 8 years in the NFL, kick return and punt return, and I'm just like, where did this come from? So we all know he's athletic. We all know that he's talented, and you just need to put the ball in his hands that he could do something. But to sit here and just kind of look at his career, man, it's inspiring. It's unexpected. But if you know the man, right, you know he's going to do something great. And whether that's football or not, you know he has a real ability to do something.
Take a break in the podcast today. The podcast is also brought to you by Locker Stockers. They take the hassle out of stocking your locker or suite for this game day season. The customer places the order, and they handle purchase and delivery of the locker to the locker or suite prior to game day. That works for Vaught Hemingway Stadium, the Pavilion, or Swayze Field when the seasons get here. So lock in that preseason price. Still another day, one more day before the home opener against Southern Illinois. So you should call today, 662-586-1487 or info@lockerstockers.com. The podcast is also brought to you by Community Mortgage, Oxford, Memphis, DeSoto County, and Chattanooga. 30 years old this year, one of the oldest mortgage companies in the Southeast, leader in condo financing in Oxford and the float down option. So give them a call at 662-234-2704 or JLOWE, JLOWE at communitymtg.com. Also, if you are heading into town this weekend for the game and you need to stock up on your liquor, Oxford Wine and Spirit's a great place to do that. Located on College Hill Road, right next to Lost Pizza. Neal and I are in there very, very often. They got all the Cathead products, and they're trying to help you, the podcast listener. So if you spend $150 or more in there, 5% off wine, 10% off liquor when you tell them about the podcast being how you heard about the store. So Oxford Wine and Spirits, again, on College Hill Road next to Lost Pizza. And then finally, the podcast brought to you in part by Tyson Drugs, TysonDrugs.com. They have a great app as well. They're located in downtown Holly Springs. 662-252-2321 is the phone number. They deliver wherever you are, and they're also now in Oxford as well with G&M Pharmacy on South Lamar, and they deliver in the Oxford area. So TysonDrugs.com. Now back to the show. Were you aware of any conversations even with him and Cutcliffe or anybody about position changes or doing something else while he was in school?
You know, I know my senior year, the conversation with Orgeron, I know the conversation happened, right? But, you know, I think Spurlock is a very proud quarterback, right? And, like, he want to play the quarterback position. So, you know, obviously that never happened. But looking at what he did, right, we definitely could have used him, especially junior, senior year at the wide receiver position.
The culture shock of a player from David Cutcliffe to Ed Orgeron.
It is a stark difference, right? It's like, listen, Cutcliffe's like he's your dad, right? He's like, you know, you don't want to disappoint him. You want to do right. When you're in the midst of doing something wrong, like you think about him, Cutcliffe, like in a good way.
So Cutcliffe is dad. What is Ed Orgeron?
He's like the drunk uncle who comes over and it's like, he's like the one making all the noise and literally ripping his shirt off at family reunions and things like that.
Cousin Eddie and Christmas Vacation?
That's Cousin Eddie. Ed Orgeron, Cousin Eddie, yes.
Yeah, so, I mean, Cutcliffe obviously loses his job after 2004. You guys, are you following this thing at all? I mean, when do you first hear Ed Orgeron's name? And then when he walks in that room the first time, what's up?
So, you know, listen, Cutcliffe, to the way you know, his departure from Ole Miss, we love Cut, you know, and he had the team in the right direction. It was the first post-Eli season, right? So I don't really know what was the expectation. We had some good guys at the quarterback position, but at the end of the day, you don't know what somebody's going to do when it's their turn. So, you know, and to my knowledge, the way it went down was he wasn't going to let some guys go that Pete Boone wanted him to let go.
Right.
And so, you know, that's very, very admirable as a player. You know, he's sticking up for his guys. So, but were we following it? A little bit. You know, but when Coach O came in there, we just wanted we gave him a chance. Listen, he came from USC, LSU. He had some stints in Miami. But we wanted we believed that he was really going to bring something to Ole Miss, so we gave him a chance.
Did he or did he not rip his shirt off in the first meeting?
He completely ripped his shirt off. So you have to understand, you have a coach coming in, you have established seniors, right? And it's like, okay, we're going to get on board with your train, but we're going to kind of be in the back, kind of hanging out and see if we need to jump off or not, because we don't know where you're trying to take this thing. But look, Coach O, people have different ways of motivating people, and his is like that rough, tough, in your face, yelling and all that kind of stuff. That doesn't excite everybody. That doesn't get everybody rolling. Me personally, I want to talk to you. I don't want, if you get in my face, right, I can hear you talking without you yelling in my face, especially about nonsense, and I don't even understand every word you're saying either. So, you know.
Did he have the team for a little while, or did he lose them from the beginning? Because you're about year one here, where you're trying to give some hope. So, right. What's up at that point?
So I don't think I wouldn't say he lost us, right? So when he came in and we had, like I said, established leaders on the team who were like, all right, guys, let's go. But, throughout all that, look, when you're not winning, everything gets exposed, right? When you're not playing well, the bad things become worse. The good things, become really good. But I wouldn't say that he ever lost us. We always were going to play. Everybody has a lot of motivating reasons for why they play. And it's not just, we have families, we have our name, et cetera, et cetera. So, but at the end of the day, if he's coming at people in ways that he really shouldn't be, that does create a little doubt in your mind about what's going on. At the same time, you're still going to give your 100% for the team.
A dozen years later, is he the same dude, or do you think he actually has a chance to succeed over there?
Listen, as I sit here, he was my coach.
Yeah.
I wish him the absolute best. I hope they dominate over at LSU, except when they come here to Oxford. So we go to Death Valley this year, right?
Yeah.
But I think he has grown. I think he has matured as a coach. You see signs of that. But I think it's I think it's the same one.
So I know the most famous game you played in was the LSU game, but when you think back on your college career, what's the one or two games that stick out in your mind?
So LSU, definitely, and then the Cotton Bowl, or Vanderbilt. Every time we played Vanderbilt, Eli, I would go off on Vanderbilt for some reason, but LSU, there's nothing like an Ole Miss LSU game. Whether it's home, whether it's away. I remember when we were making the trip up to Death Valley, literally the bus was rocking from side to side, but it was the fans were pushing the bus from side to side. And if something like that, college football doesn't get your blood boiling, are you even alive,
Finish up at Ole Miss. You are able to go into camp with the Redskins and then spend a little time, at least in that environment. Is that one of those things for you where it's, hey, let's grab this experience. Let's make sure we have no regrets moving forward? What was sort of your mindset going into that phase of your football career?
Talking about senior at Ole Miss?
Well, no, when you get done and you're trying out the NFL thing, obviously.
Oh, so obviously you want to listen. As a college athlete, you're preparing for life post college. As a college student, right, you're doing the same thing. So if you're a student athlete, you're doing both. You're working towards a post life from football. But yeah, it's just capture the moments. Remember the good times. Listen, one thing that I'll say about Ole Miss is that when I left, I never left. If that makes sense. Ole Miss has always treated me like family. Listen, I hadn't played at Ole Miss since 2005, but here I am right now with you guys at Funky's doing a podcast. So there's nothing like Ole Miss. I will never talk to one of my athletes and steer them a particular direction. I don't believe in that. But what I will do is talk about the great things that we have here at Ole Miss. What I will do is talk about my experiences. What I will do is talk about how literally I can call Coach Luke right now, and barring he's not in a meeting or something like that, he's going to answer. He's going to text me back. I talked to Coach Peeler last night, so Ole Miss is family.
It seems like to me, from the outside looking in a little bit, that Ole Miss with Matt and this administration, they seem like they are putting their arms around you guys and the former players more than maybe in the past regimes a little bit. I know Ross had the players-only meetings during the coaching surge and that, but just in general, it does seem like maybe a little more welcome environment for former players to keep you guys back in.
Without a doubt. When we came up for the spring game, there was a concerted effort to get former players. And so I literally ran into people I haven't seen since 2005. It's because, Coach Luke's a former player. He understands it. He understands tradition. He understands keeping people involved in the program, right? So, I mean, how can you sit here and recruit a player, but then you don't even welcome the former players back who have been there and who gave blood, sweat, and tears for this university? So, the effort is awesome. And I think that from a culture standpoint, Ole Miss football is going to greatly benefit from it. And you're just going to have advocates walking around for Ole Miss across the nation.
Last couple things. I know you got to go in just a second. I was writing a thing yesterday, and I was kind of ranking Ole Miss wide receivers since 2000 and looking back through the list. In today's offensive schemes, you got quarterback. I mean, obviously you had Eli, but, in the way they're spread out and stuff now, what would Chris Collins be like as a receiver today?
Listen, Chris Collins, obviously I'm very partial towards him. He was whenever we would travel at games, I was a freshman, he was a junior, he was my roommate. And he just taught me the ropes. So what would a guy like Chris Collins, he'd do something similar to what AJ's doing, DK's doing, I think. He's not your burner, right? Which is very ironic to me because he won the state championship in the 200 meters in high school, right? So he's not a burner, but he's fast enough and he's going to get behind you and you're not going to catch him. So I think Chris Collins will go off. In my opinion, if I had to rank him, he's top 3.
Mike, we appreciate it. No, we're not going to keep this thing going a second. We're about to have a story time in a second off the game that's up there above the TV. That's Ole Miss A&M in 2012. We'll get into picks in a minute as well. But, Mike, good luck to your dad. And
Thank you.
We appreciate it as you sneak out of here right now.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Neal, you want to scoot on over and we'll keep this show running.
You don't want to stay this close?
Well, it's just a little weird angle. I'd rather you get away from me a little bit. Appreciate it. Well, good time here while Mike's making his exit. Get into the Blue Delta trivia question for the night. Again, a $200 gift certificate to Blue Delta Jeans, first person. You can write it on a napkin. You can tweet it at me. However you get it to me, first person wins. If for some reason nobody inside here wins tonight, first person in the morning when this thing's loaded, we'll get it. So in 2005, Mike Espy was 10th in the SEC in receiving yards. What freshman led the SEC in receiving yards in 2005 is the question. First answer to me wherever I see it gets the envelope that's over here behind my computer from Blue Delta Jeans. So, Neal, we are watching Ole Miss, Texas A&M. It is 2012, I believe. I don't think it's 13. I'm pretty sure it's 12. We're at least going to act like it's 12 for the sake of this here podcast. Hugh Freeze's first year. At this point, I believe Ole Miss hasn't won an SEC game yet because they beat Auburn maybe a week later and then beat Arkansas after that and then Mississippi State. No. But the macaroni and cheese pizza, I think, is making its way around the bar.
We take a break from the show to tell you that this podcast is brought to you by Robert Gambrell and Gambrell and Associates. Robert knows that many of the people listening to this podcast will never need a bankruptcy attorney or a Social Security disability attorney. However, many of you may be interested in reviewing your financial situation to consider asset protection. This is a part of what a good bankruptcy attorney does. And also, many of you have friends and or relatives that get into difficult financial situations. Gambrell and Associates helps many people work through their times of hardship. whether that results in filing a bankruptcy petition or working to avoid a bankruptcy filing. Others are primarily worried about their credit scores. For those people, many times Gambrell and Associates refer their clients to Brian McLaurin, another advertiser on this podcast. Sometimes people find the easiest way to rebuild credit is similar to what the Cubs did. Tear it down, start over. This can be done by filing for relief under Chapter 7 to get a fresh start. Whatever your needs are, you, your relatives, or friends can get a free consultation for 1 hour or more to help make your decision on what is best for you. Check out Robert Gambrell on avvo.com, superlawyers.com, or give him a call, 662-281-8800. This podcast is also brought to you by Grenada Nissan. If you're in the market for a Nissan vehicle, look no further than Grenada Nissan, located just off Interstate 55 in Grenada, Mississippi. Grenada Nissan has a complete selection of new and previously owned Nissan vehicles, great lease deals as well. Gene and Sandy have been with the website, the podcast, a long time. They're great people, great service, great product. You will love doing business with the people at Grenada Nissan. It's GrenadaNissanUSA.com. The podcast also brought to you by Harry Alexander. Harry is an Oxford-based RE/MAX legacy realty agent. Harry's been in Oxford more than 4 decades. No one knows the residential and condo market in Oxford better than Harry. Go to his site. He'll prove it to you. It's harryalexander.com. Click on the Properties Neighborhoods tab. Filter through by what you are looking for, and then send him an email. It's ha@harryalexander.com. And Rebel Nation, 2018 is the year of the fan. Ole Miss Athletics wants to showcase your stories and recognize you, the Ole Miss fan base. Exciting prizes and experiences throughout the year will be featured on omyearofthefan.com and updated often, so be sure to visit omyearofthefan.com. Now back to the podcast.
So I think this might be the worst night in rebelgrove.com message board history. At the end of this game, Ole Miss has a 4th and 1 to ice the game. Hugh Freeze puts Bo Wallace in the shotgun, runs a quarterback sneak, quarterback draw, something like that out of the gun, or maybe hands it off to Jeff Scott. Even I don't remember. One way or the other, it was out of the gun. He did not get it. And it was mass chaos. We basically told him, say whatever you want, be as vulgar as you like for about 24 hours, and then we'll cut it off. It was rough. However, on Monday, and this is where I'll let Neal take over, the week had not moved on from the coaching staff as of about 11:15 on Monday morning.
I'm wondering if we have our years mixed up.
You think it was the next year?
It might have been the next year. It was the year that it ended with Bo throwing a pick.
I don't know. Well, it wouldn't have ended that. That would have been the next year, actually, because they didn't get the 4th and 1, and that ended the game.
You sure you want me to tell this story?
You can tell it anyway. Yeah, we've already teased it.
Given what you're working on?
Do what?
Given what you're working on?
I think we're okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So it's the Monday after, and there was a press conference because Ole Miss was playing whoever the next week. And I'm leaving, and I get a text, and it's Hugh Freeze, and it's, hey, where are you? And I said, I'm leaving the parking lot. And he wants me to come up to his office. So I go up to his office, and he's got film queued up. And you know me, you've worked with me for a while now. I'm not going to be Mr. X and O break down the film. I watch the ball. And he wants to show me the pick.
This is right after a 41-38 Texas A&M win over Ole Miss in 2013 is what this is. Ole Miss
13.
The next week is when that walking wounded Ole Miss team beat LSU 27-24 on the Andrew Ritter kick back in Oxford. So we're a few days shy of that.
Oh, holy hell, that was crazy, wasn't it? Yeah, because we all assumed they'd lose to LSU because they were so beat up.
Yeah, Derek Jones shut down Odell Beckham that night.
Yeah, Derek's in the league now.
He is in the league, yeah. Go ahead.
Anyway, so he shows me the play, and Bo didn't read the play properly. There was a cross, if I recall correctly, there was a crossing route that had Bo read it correctly. It certainly would have been a first down. He might have gone the distance. I can't remember who the receiver was. It may have been Moncrief. I don't have any idea. It doesn't matter. And he's showing this to me, and he's basically saying, I can get this to you. I'll get somebody to cut it up for you. And all I said was, do you really want to do that? Because obviously that's, excuse me, That's taking, and you're right, it was 13. That's taking Bo Wallace, who, if Bo Wallace doesn't come, none of this stuff ever happens. Because if Bo Wallace does what his parents want him to do, which is go to Mississippi State.
Yeah, State or Texas.
Or do what I think he kind of wanted to do, which was go to Texas. If Bo does one of those two things, Barry Brunetti, who's one of the favorite people I've ever covered. I love Barry. He's a great person. But Barry Brunetti's the quarterback at Ole Miss, and Barry's as much of an SEC quarterback as I am a hair model. It's just not going to happen. And they're not going to win 6 games. They're not going to win those kind of games because the offense would have not – Barry wouldn't have been able to run that offense. They would have gotten bogged down. They would have gone 4-8, 3-9. They wouldn't have gained in 2012. They wouldn't have gained kind of the momentum they got when they went to Birmingham and they won the bowl game and they recruited, Laramie Tunsil and Robert Kimdichie and Tony Connor and all those guys. So I said, do you really want to do that? And what it was with Freeze, and if we ever talk to him, I'm going to ask him about it. I think it was the first time in his career that fans were questioning whether he had the goods to coach at that level, and he didn't like it. He didn't yet know. I think it was the first time that we really got one of the first times that we really got a glimpse into just how green he was as a coach at that level. Somebody just won.
Yeah, somebody just won. The answer to the Blue Delta Jeans trivia question as I interrupt the end of Neal's story here is Sidney Rice, the South Carolina wide receiver. He led the SEC as a freshman in 2005 in receiving yards. So the winner of a $200 gift certificate to Blue Delta Jeans that we'll distribute here after the show. Bill, go ahead.
So we ran the story. We showed the film and all of that, and I always wondered, and I've never really asked, but I've always wondered kind of how Bo felt about that. He couldn't have felt good about it. And there were some people that saw it that said, I can't believe the coach is throwing the quarterback under the bus publicly. Not in private, where in private you say you've got to make that read. You have to read that correctly. That cost us an opportunity to win the game. But publicly, the stance you have to take is, it's on me.
It was a very similar play, best I remember, against Alabama in 2008. Ole Miss even starts that winning streak earlier. They do it in Tuscaloosa. Jevin Sneed on the last drive misses kind of the same guy like that, jumping across the middle of the field. That would have been a very, very long play or a touchdown in a game that Alabama ended up winning 30-24.
It was Mike Wallace. He was wide open.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, looking back, one of the plays that would have changed a little bit of a landscape of things back in 2008. So, anyway, got a pizza being delivered up on the chairs here as we keep going. So, all right, just wanted to get the story time. You want to stop and say something about it? You good? All right, good enough. All right, getting a couple picks. I think everything went pretty good last week, Neal. Do you have records updated inside the system from last week?
Yeah, up at the top.
Up at the top? I'm looking. I don't know that you did.
They're there. I've seen them several times.
Have you? How'd you do? I got them. Okay, sorry. Everybody doing pretty good last week.
You were distracted by some of the Neal's Picks interns.
I was. The intern pictures up at the top of the page again. They're subtle. I led things off 14-0 overall, 7-1 against the spread last week. I went 7-1.
You did well. Yay, Chase.
Yeah, my one loss, the Coastal Carolina, South Carolina game, which when it's a 30-point line and you lose, I don't really feel bad about that when you pick the wrong one.
Don't doubt my boy, Boom.
You're 5-3 on the season against the spread. Jeffrey at 6-2. Only going to hit the ones that kind of matter here. I'm not going to go through a lot of FCS games here on the show, but the content will be up at rebelgrove.com in the morning as well. We are getting delivered macaroni and cheese pizza in a second ago. So I'm told that it actually is a little bit of a labor-intensive thing here. It's got a creme fraiche as a base. It doesn't have marinara or anything. And then there's like 3 kinds of cheese. There's noodles. Neal is eating a piece of pizza that has to have at least 4,000 calories in it. He's going to say hello to Hannah Marie on the Peloton at like 4:30 in the morning and run for hours in the morning.
I'll do an extra class because of this piece.
How is it?
It's interesting.
Is it?
It's rich. It's good. It's good.
Do you want a whole pie?
No, I don't. My mentality is such that if I did that, there would be self-flagellation.
All right, fair
You should
enough.
try a bite.
I'll try it in a second when you start talking. But anyway, up today, we had a good first week. Again, these up at rebelgrove.com. Mississippi State -9 at Kansas State, 11 o'clock on ESPN. You know, typically this is the game where you go, hey, Bill Snyder's going to have his guys ready. It's in the Little Apple. It's in Manhattan. This is a different club, though, because eventually we talk about Father Time all the time. It's starting to get inside that program that he's the only one that's won there, but he's old. There's some infighting about who's going to replace him. They struggled last week against a cupcake. This feels like, I mean, you got Nick Fitzgerald, and he's coming off that very innocent suspension last week where they just really wanted to rest him. No harm, no foul there.
No.
This feels like State rolls over there.
I think what Fitzgerald did, if I understand Mississippi State Twitter properly, is
he roughly petted a puppy last week.
He did. He petted a puppy, and he petted him a little hard, and he accidentally stepped on the puppy's paw, and the puppy made a little sound, and so they suspended him for a game. Because I don't know if you heard this, Mississippi State is the one school in the country that enforces a one strike and you sit drug policy.
Oh, marijuana. Yeah,
marijuana, because that wouldn't hurt your recruiting efforts at all. No, sir. That's admirable, really, when you think about it. Everybody else is kind of, hey, you got 3 tests before we have to suspend you. There, it's 1 test, baby. 1 test. It's a picture in compliance is what it is. That's why they are where they are. So that being said, they're really, I think defensively they're very good. I think they're going to give Kansas State problems, and I think they're going to cover this line.
Yeah, you've got it 27-14. I have not inputted a score yet, but I will in a minute. But either way,
well, that's convenient on your part. What's your pick?
I've got the winners. State's going to win. They're going to cover. State's covering this weekend against Kansas State in Manhattan, Kansas. Look, Middle Tennessee obviously sucks. I get that.
Yes.
But this weekend, Nevada plus 9.5 at Vanderbilt, 11 a.m. on the SEC Network. Vanderbilt plays a lot of 11 a.m. games. It wouldn't be the worst thing to cover Vanderbilt, I don't think. Are they better than we're giving them credit for, or is this one of those week 1 hot takes just because of how bad the Blue Raiders are?
It's a week 1 hot take. It's also, they're an example of you need to see a couple, 3 games before you start making judgment. They do have an experienced quarterback in Kyle Shermer. We probably all made too much of the loss of your friend Ralph Webb. They got
cut by the Patriots the morning after we talked about him on last week's show.
That happens.
He and Danny Etling cut at the same time. Danny Etling scores on like an 80-yard run and gets the axe like 4 minutes later.
They do have some experience back on defense. To your point, that doesn't necessarily mean a good thing, but it's a difference when you're used to playing Alabama and Tennessee and Florida and Georgia and those kind of teams, and all of a sudden you play Middle Tennessee and your talent shows up. I'm not prepared to say that Vanderbilt's much better than we thought they would be. It just shows you that if you put Middle Tennessee in the SEC, they'd get their ass kicked 8 times.
Nevada scored 72 on Portland State last week, Neal.
But I like Vandy to win. I can't remember what
9.5 is the line.
Did I pick them to cover or not? No.
You picked a game of 27-20, so no, you did not pick them to cover.
I'm not ready to say that Vanderbilt goes. It's in Reno, right?
Yeah.
I'm not prepared to say they go there and cover a line.
Guest, join our podcast on the Billy's Pecans hotline. Billy's Pecans has a complete selection of pecans, goodies, jellies, coffee cakes. We tell you about the cinnamon spice pecans all the time. The toasted pecans are awesome. All sorts of chocolate pecans, milk chocolate, dark chocolate, white chocolate, chocolate amaretto, chocolate Grand Marnier, the cheese crispies, I should say, the coffee cakes. Everything's great at Billy's Pecans, whether you're getting ready for a high school tailgate, getting ready for a college tailgate, getting ready to make a road trip to Houston or wherever. Billy's Pecans is a great option. You'll be thrilled that you have some Billy's Pecans with you on your tailgate, on your trip. It's billyspecans.com or 1-800-624-7404. The podcast is also brought to you by 7 South Tailgating. 7 South celebrating 10 years of business this season. Try 7 South once. You'll never tailgate without them again. 7 South will set up your own personal gear, or you can rent everything from them. No one matches their customer service, their attention to detail. Whether you're coming up for one game this fall or all the games this fall or anything in between, whether your tailgate is intricate or really very simple, 7 South can take care of you. 7southtailgating.com. If you're in the Birmingham area and you're in the real estate market, perhaps get in touch with Megan Phillips with LAH Real Estate. She's the person to call for all your real estate needs in the Birmingham area. With almost a decade of experience, Megan's knowledge and expertise can help you buy or sell your home today. So please visit her website at meganmphillips.com. That's MEAGANM Phillips.com. Or call Megan at 205-602-7929. Again, 205-602-7929. And this podcast is brought to you by Oxford University Bank. OUB is locally owned and operated right here in Oxford. When you deposit money at OUB, that money and the vast majority of the bank's profits go right back into the Oxford community. OUB gives you the comfort of home, all the benefits the big mega banks provide, all the technology and products you can want, all with the personal touch. When you call OUB, you speak directly with the live person. There's no 10 buttons to press, no 5-minute wait. OUB also offers its customers the absolute best cash checking account. It's called Kasasa. And with Kasasa, OUB will pay customers 2.5% interest on their balances up to $50,000. And with Kasasa, ATM fees nationwide are refunded. OUB also offers online bill pay and mobile check deposit using its online app. To learn more about OUB, check out liveoxfordbankoxford.com or call 662-234-6668. OUB is FDIC insured.
This game's a blowout, but I'm sort of interested in it. This is going to be that early season Nick Saban game. Arkansas State plus 37.5, number 1 Alabama, 130 on ESPN2. But every single year it seems like Nick finds a way to yell at them early in the year in one of these kind of games. They win, it's never in doubt, but it's kind of ugly. It serves a purpose. Usually Western Kentucky's the team that he does this to. They come to Oxford next week to start SEC play.
That's what I heard.
And because of Ole Miss's offense and some PTSD probably a little nervous about that game, even with last year's score being what it was. Is this the one where he almost makes them lay an egg on Saturday against Arkansas State?
He'd probably like for them to, but if you listen to people who know football really well, they rave about Tua Tagovailoa, and I'm not sure that
he could just play Jalen Hurts the whole day.
He could, which would be par for the course at this point. I think I laid the points. I don't know. It's a lot of points. I don't know that Arkansas State can score.
You did. You picked it 52-10, and I'm doing the same thing. So
yeah, I'm laying those points. They're the dominant program in college football. And if you listen to people talk who know the game, they tell you that Tua Tagovailoa gives them an element that they've not really had in the past. And I don't know that you intentionally stifle that if you're Nick Saban.
The game of the week in the SEC, number 3 Georgia minus 9.5 at number 24 South Carolina. Your boy Boom hosting the Bulldogs at 2:30 on CBS. We'll be watching this in a press box as Ole Miss and Southern Illinois start their game at 3 p.m.
Well, you will.
On Saturday.
I'll be glued to the Ole Miss Southern Illinois game, noticing just the intricacies of backups and that type thing. You'll be the one watching South Carolina and Georgia. I know how that works. Because, man, you know me. If I'm covering a game, I'm glued to that game.
You kind of switched this thing up. I did the same thing. I took Carolina and the points on Saturday. You've been telling me for 3 weeks you thought Georgia would kick the crap out of them, and all of a sudden you've got Carolina covering this game. Where'd you swing in the last 72 hours?
I had Mike Detillier on the Beer Garden, and I asked him about it, and he thinks that South Carolina has a chance to win the game.
So you copied his picks?
I did.
Okay.
Yep.
It's really not fair.
The Beer Garden is available on iTunes, SoundCloud, Podbean. It's available for you to listen to as well. He thinks this is a competitive game. He is not as sold on Jake Fromm as others. And Carolina's pretty good on the defensive side. Bentley is a solid, serviceable quarterback. Have you ever been to Columbia?
No, I did not go in 2009 when they had the game over there.
It's one of those venues that...
But it's at 2:30, not 8.
Yeah, but it's one of those venues that if it gets into the early fourth quarter, it will have an impact on the game. So I don't know. 9.5 felt like a lot of points.
This is pretty obvious. Southern Illinois at Ole Miss, 3 o'clock. Again, SEC Network alternate, which means there's going to be all kind of chaos trying to find the channel for this game. A lot of times the SEC Network or ESPN doesn't even bother to put the game on the alternate channel right at kickoff. So RIP to all of our mentions and Twitter and everybody else as they try to find this game. But for Ole Miss, obviously, it's stay healthy, and if we're still talking at all about this game on Sunday afternoon, something went wrong. We say that over and over and over again. But otherwise, give me one or two for Saturday for Ole Miss.
Progressing defensively. Kind of stopping the run. Southern Illinois is going to run the football. Being in the right place for fits and all that stuff. I think if at the end of the game the coaches are still talking about wrong fits and stuff, that's probably not a great sign. And then offensively, it's just kind of taking care of things. Getting starters off
red zone confidence. They go 0-4 last week in the red zone. In Phil Longo's, 13 games now, Ole Miss has not been a very good red zone team because they're so explosive. You don't have explosive scores inside the red zone, obviously, because you're inside the 20. And the other factors to that, they just haven't been overly good at. So it's really run the ball in the red zone, be efficient, and get some touchdowns just for almost some confidence stake down there.
It's the reason I'm not yet bullish on the whole 8-4, 9-3 predictions and stuff is when you play Auburn, when you play Alabama, when you play LSU, when you play these teams with speed, can you count on those explosive plays throughout the game the way that you can against the Texas Techs of the world? I'm not saying you can't. I just kind of need to see it.
What's the crowd going to be like in Knoxville this weekend? East Tennessee State at Tennessee.
Not very smart, kind of drunk.
Yeah, wearing a lot of orange. They get hammered by West Virginia.
Very orange. Yeah.
They get hammered by West Virginia last week. They get another cupcake next week. So they're going to be 2-1, maybe start feeling frisky about the Jeremy Pruitt era. And then
that's Mr. Jeremy Pruitt.
Mr. Jeremy Pruitt.
Thank you.
And then chaos hits. 4 in a row: Florida, Georgia, Alabama, and Auburn for Tennessee on this schedule.
Shame.
They're 2-5 when they turn into the meat of the second half of the schedule. This, what we always think Ed Orgeron is going to be at his next stop, that is Jeremy Pruitt.
I hope so. I mean, yeah, I think so. He's going to...
You have found some hate for teams not named Baylor, Ohio State, that kind of thing. It's coming back.
I don't like Tennessee. I don't know what it is. I know what it is. It's their fans. They have the worst fans.
They have the most psychotic fans in the country.
They have the most psychotic fans in the country, or at least east of Nebraska. And they're the worst.
Yeah, that was my take 2 years ago, and I still believe it. Those two programs are meant for each other, Nebraska and Tennessee. Yeah. Tennessee's just a whole other level of crazy.
And really, the ideal game is Tennessee and Nebraska in Shreveport on, like, Christmas Day. That's perfect.
See, I want them in the opener every year where one of them crows they're immediately back and national title contenders. Open up with each other every single year, Tennessee and Nebraska.
That would be a great
traditional
rivalry.
There's a chance Scott Frost kind of ruins this for us and does at least bring Nebraska back to respectability. They're not winning the title, but just respectability.
Yeah, he'll do it in a way that Pruitt can't. I mean, they'll obviously beat East Tennessee.
But my point being, is the honeymoon already over at 2-5?
Yeah, I don't think there was never going to be a honeymoon. He was seriously, he was the 6th choice. They were going to hire Schiano. They were going to hire Dan Mullen. They were going to hire Dave Doran. David Cutcliffe said no. David Cutcliffe said no to Tennessee. Think about that.
Oh, it's smart. Cutcliffe found the perfect place for him, and he stays there.
Of course.
It's perfect.
Dave Doran said no. That North Carolina State coach, who was prepared to take the Ole Miss job, turns Tennessee down. Tells you something about what people say about the program inside the industry. So, yeah, they're going to lose a lot of games. They're no better than the 12th best team in the SEC. And they're probably the 14th best team.
Wyoming plus 17.5 at Missouri. Drew Lock starting kind of his under-the-radar Heisman campaign with another week. He'll have a lot of good a lot of good numbers after they beat UT Martin last week, and now Wyoming this week. Wyoming did win their opener. They beat New Mexico State 29-7. But Missouri's going to plod along, and basically they're just trying to not lose 7 games and have to fire Barry Odom. I mean, for this thing, it's all about is it 6, 7, or 8, which kind of dictates whether they have a successful season.
Yeah, I think Missouri wins big, and I say that because they're sending me a Drew Lock bobblehead this week.
Are they really?
I asked for one, and they sent it.
Who'd you ask?
I went through my friend Gabe DeArmond in the University of Missouri Sports Information Department, and suddenly Missouri and I are developing a relationship. I mean, it is a matter of time before Pat Forty and I sit down and break bread. Matter of time. We're on our way.
We've made fun of them ever since he told you to mind your beat that day in Atlanta. So
he did. He told me to mind my beat. And
last time I checked, covering Bo Wallace was your beat. So
and here we are 4 years later, and there's a relationship forming.
We're still talking about Bo on the TV up here, and we're making up with Pat Forty and the like. Arkansas, Chad Morris gets off to a good start last week. Got a little. I mentioned this earlier in the week on the podcast. A little bit of quarterback controversy. Even Ty Story, Cole Kelly. They head to Colorado State, a game that we said, hey, might be tough. Now, not tough at all. Colorado State gets hammered by Colorado. They get beat by Hawaii as well. They're 0-2. Bobo's had some health issues and different things. It looks like a really nice day for Chad Morris in Fort Collins on Saturday.
It does, and what you're seeing with Morris and Arkansas is sort of what you expect with first-year coaches. The kids play hard. They're trying to impress. Everybody's got a fresh start. It's kind of a positive thing. There's a feel around their program, and for them to get bowl eligible, this is a game they have to win, and I think they'll win it. I don't think there's much doubt.
No, it looks like they can find 6 all of a sudden. It would look like it was going to get hung there at 4 or 5. No, I think Arkansas does get to 6. It's very likely every team in the SEC West is bowl eligible. Obviously, Ole Miss is waiting on an appeal, probably not going to go to a bowl, but they're going to get to 6 too. They're going to be eligible. And then the last game of the day, the one that also I haven't looked at your pick yet because I haven't put mine actually into the system. Kentucky plus 14 at Florida. Dan Mullen's first SEC game after beating up on Charleston Southern last week. And the streak has continued. Kentucky has not beaten Florida since 1986. 31 in a row for the Gators.
I think the streak ends on Saturday.
Not just a cover, a win.
Not just a cover. I think the Wildcats go to Florida and win the game.
Why?
Defensively, they're significantly better than people think they are. They're okay at quarterback. Snell gives them a running game. They're good up front. And I think they go down there and win.
I just think you're wanting
They should have
chaos.
won the last 2 times.
But they didn't. There is that middle block when you've lost 31 in a row that you can't be even. You've got to be substantially better to get over that mental hurdle.
You know, Chase, the rumor is there was a baseball team that went 108 years without winning a title.
They did.
And then they won a title. All things end. All streaks end. This streak's over.
Theo Epstein does not coach Kentucky.
He doesn't, but the Cubs wear blue. Kentucky wears blue. There's some science here.
If they wear chrome helmets, will they lose?
Yeah. They should wear blue helmets, white tops, white pants, and pull it off in the swamp, which is not an intimidating venue.
No, it's a very overrated venue. Everybody
Yes.
kind of talks about Florida, and if anything, Scott Strickland's trying to limit their attendance. Actually, they're starting to knock some seats out of that place right now.
There was a lot made last week about Florida and how Florida had fun on the sideline and all that crap like that. Usually that's a cover-up for the team's not very good. And I don't think that Felipe Franks is their quarterback.
We know what he is.
He's not going to run you out of a building. Kentucky's good. I mean, you know, we saw Kentucky at the end of last season, and Ole Miss played well and won the game at the end there. Kentucky almost beat Ole Miss, and then they kind of won games after that. They're a solid program. And not a good program, but a solid program, and I think they go to Florida and win.
I can't put my finger on it. What is Dan Mullen's expectation right now down there?
Go recruit. He's going to be judged on how he recruits the first couple of years. And I don't know.
But he's catching it where Florida State's kind of average right now, and you got Miami that's pretty average right now. I think Saturday was much more of an indictment on Miami than anything it said about LSU. They just got out-athleted.
I tend to agree, and what I noticed about Mullen, I mean, all jokes aside, is the guy sure seems happy. He looks happier than he did the last few years. It's a good fit. We'll see how it works. It's not a bad time to be there. The only threat you have there is Georgia, where Kirby Smart has turned them into Alabama East. Tennessee's not a power. Carolina's a solid program, but no one's calling it a power. Florida State doesn't look like a power. Miami's not a power. You really saw last week why Georgia fired Mark Richt. You just can't get to that next spot.
That also means Mark Richt has quite a ceiling at Miami, too. And you saw it last year. He's lost 4 games in a row. They lost 3 games of last year, including a 10-point loss to Pitt, and then they get embarrassed in the opener against LSU like that. You watching something?
No, I was just looking at a highlight. I'm good.
What were you watching?
I'm not sure who that is. It looks like it's South Carolina. Just Boom. Anytime Boom's team is on, I'm mesmerized.
What's his...
Totally distracted.
He's not coaching there the next 15 years. What's his next gig? Does it bottom out and then he has to kind of start over, or does he turn that into a little better of a program?
No, I think he turns it into a 9.5 win program, and he gets the big job.
Go ahead. Can he replace Gus Malzahn at Auburn?
Yeah. And Auburn and LSU, if it goes badly. One of those kind of jobs, and he'll do well. He learned something at Florida. And look, Florida's a lot like Tennessee and some of those other programs where just because you won once or even won twice, it doesn't make you an automatic winner. There aren't many of those programs where anybody could step in and be a 10-win coach. Florida's not Alabama.
NFL season kicking off here in a few minutes. The Philadelphia Eagles, the Atlanta Falcons. We teased the beer garden a little bid, but what did Tillier give us for Super Bowls for the opener tonight?
Yeah, you should listen to it on the podcast. It was really good. He's interested in Atlanta tonight. He thinks that the NFC comes down to the Falcons or the Saints, maybe the Rams. He thinks the Rams have a better regular season route. He thinks at the end either New Orleans or Atlanta is better. And he loves the Chargers.
That's where you got that from too then?
Yes.
Football savant over here because of Mike Detillier.
There's nothing wrong with admitting that you don't know something and listening to people who do and stealing their thoughts. It's kind of like being a great delegator as a politician. Like your boy Trump, you know?
Thanks.
You went to the White House and hung out with Trump, and you're like suddenly you're Henry Kissinger all of a sudden.
Yeah, that's what it is over here. That's a good place to wrap it. Again, Ole Miss, Southern Illinois, 3 o'clock Saturday from Vaught Hemingway Stadium. The home opener for the Rebels. We'll have all the coverage at rebelgrove.com. Again, this will be up in the morning in podcast form as it is every single Friday morning. Back here at Funky's next week, previewing Ole Miss and Alabama, the SEC opener, 6 o'clock start time for that one between the Rebels and the Crimson Tide. So he's gone now, but thanks to Mike Espy for joining us. We'll have another guest next week and continue on. Thanks, guys.